Hello, and thank you for watching this instructional video on ILS data reporting requirements and ILS provider staffing charts. The New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services, or ILS in short, is responsible for collecting data from providers of mandated public defense representation and mandated parent representation in family court. Some reports are legislatively required, and some reports are required as a condition of ILS funding. Providers' data collection and reporting requirements have significantly expanded over the last 7 years. In 2024, ILS introduced an additional data report for recipients of ILS parent representation grants. This instructional video will provide an overview of ILS data reporting requirements, explain the ILS provider staffing charts that were first introduced in 2025, and conclude with a list of important data and reporting dates in 2026. Providers of mandated public defense are required to complete and submit up to 3 different data reports: the ILS 195, the Parent Representation Report, PRR 195, and the Performance Measures Progress Report, or PMF. The ILS 195 is required for all providers of mandated public defense representation and collects information on provider caseloads, staffing patterns, expenditures, arraignment representation practices, and initiatives to improve the quality of defense representation. It is an annual report due on April 1st each year. The PRR 195 is required for mandated defense providers funded through ILS parent representation grants and asks specific questions about providers' family court caseloads, staffing, expenditures, and quality improvement initiatives. The PRR 195 is a biannual report due in March and August each year. The Performance Measures Progress Report, or PMF in short, is required for providers of mandated criminal defense representation that receive funding through the statewide expansion contracts with ILS. This report tracks the progress of implementation of reforms as described under the statewide expansion of the Hurl-Herring Settlement Agreement and asks questions about attorney and specialized professional hires supported by statewide funds spent towards investigative services, expert services, and training of attorney and specialized professional staff, and also funds spent towards ensuring the presence of defense counsel at arraignment. The PMF is a biannual report due in April and October each year. In addition, New York State counties and New York City are required to submit an annual financial report to ILS. In short, the AFR. The AFR asks counties to report the county's actual expenditures for services under Article 18B of the county law, as well as revenue sources for these actual expenditures, and is due March 1st each year. (2025) Update to PMF. In January 2025, ILS issued a major update to the PMF. ILS communicated to providers that staffing questions on the PMF, questions 1 and 3, would be eliminated over the next year and replaced with the ILS provider staffing chart. PMF staffing questions 1 and 3 led to many provider questions and caused some confusion. The ILS provider staffing chart will address these concerns and make reporting easier and more intuitive for providers. The ILS provider staffing chart. Why did ILS choose to develop the ILS providing staffing chart at that moment? For the first time, beginning in 2025, the ILS 195, March PRR 195, and April PMF reporting periods all reference the prior calendar year. In addition, all 3 reports include questions about staffing. Advantages of the staffing chart include that now all staffing information is recorded in one place, and there is less duplication of effort by providers reporting to ILS. The idea is to have providers review and update this chart once a year. What is the ILS provider staffing chart and what does it look like? Well, the chart comes in the form of an Excel file and includes 4 tabs. Tab 1, Instructions. Tab 2, Attorney Positions. Tab 3, Specialized Professional Positions. Tab 4, ACP Panel Attorneys. The ILS provider staffing charts are pre-filled with information reviewed and updated by providers the previous year. Although most staffing information might already be in the chart when you receive it, the chart may not be entirely complete or may contain outdated information, which is where you come in. So how do I receive and submit the ILS provider staffing chart for my office? ILS is rolling out the ILS provider staffing chart in phases. For providers included in the first phase of the rollout, the chart will be sent as an attachment to the January 15, 2026 email with your unique Question Pro links to the ILS 195, PRR 195, and/or PMF. You will be asked to review, update, and complete the chart. You will then upload the completed chart when you complete the 2026 ILS 195 online in Question Pro. The last question will allow for file upload, and we kindly ask you to upload in Excel format. Moving forward, each year, the most recent ILS provider staffing charts will be sent along with the Question Pro links in mid-January. There are 2 important updates to the ILS provider staffing charts. First, each provider is required to provide the full attorney and specialized professional name for ILS-funded positions. This is to enhance and facilitate ILS's timely review of submitted claims for reimbursement. Second, each assigned counsel program is required to provide a complete panel attorney list so that ILS can create a statewide overview of ACP panels. This will also enhance and facilitate ILS's timely review of submitted claims for reimbursement. So what about any instructional materials or an opportunity to ask questions about these staffing charts? First, all providers are strongly encouraged to watch this instructional video from start to finish and refer back to it as needed. Next, ILS will hold a virtual Q&A session on Thursday, January 22, 2026 at 11 a.m. for providers and data officers to ask any questions they may have about staffing charts or the ILS 195, PRR 195, and/or performance measures progress report more generally. So here is where I will stop sharing my PowerPoint presentation and start sharing the actual ILS provider staffing chart so that I can give you some more information on what these are. As mentioned before, the ILS provider staffing chart includes 4 tabs, which you can see here on the screen: Instructions, Attorney Positions, Specialized Professionals, and ACP Panel Attorneys. The current tab provides written instructions on how to fill out and complete this staffing chart. It explains in detail which staff should be reported in each of the tabs or charts. In this video, We will go through all of these instructions while I show the relevant sections of the staffing charts. So let's move on to the second tab, which includes the staffing chart that focuses on attorney positions. For this chart, we are asking you to please list all public defense attorney positions at this provider. This includes public defense attorneys on staff for criminal court and family court representations, as well as positions that are funded by ILS contracts but not yet filled. To be clear, on staff refers to all persons who are employed by the office in a full or part-time capacity. For assigned counsel providers, only include attorneys employed to run the program itself, which are the administrator or supervising attorney. Please do not include panel attorneys accepting assignments in this tab. An attorney is a person admitted to the New York State Bar or awaiting bar admission and acting pursuant to a practice order. To be counted here, they must have been engaged either in providing legal representation to clients, in supervising or managing others who provide legal representation to clients, or managing an assigned counsel program. At the top of this chart, you will find the name of your office, and you are asked to indicate or confirm how many hours a full-time work week is. When you look at the staffing chart, you see that it includes 5 color-coded sections. First, the blue section. This blue section is for attorney position information. Second, the orange section for funding information. Third, the green section for case information. The fourth, in yellow, is for training information. And lastly, the gray section is to add notes specific to each position, which is optional. So let's look at the blue section first. The first column of this chart simply provides the number of attorney positions starting at 1. The second column, titled ILS-code-AT, is a code assigned by ILS to facilitate the claims review process and identification of unique positions. You do not have to enter any information here. In the third column of this chart, you are asked to provide the attorney's name. This is now required for all ILS-funded positions to facilitate ILS's claims review process. The same applies to the next tab with the specialized professional positions. The fourth column asks you to report the type of position. Please indicate by using the drop-down list if the attorney is a chief attorney, administrator, or attorney in charge, a supervising attorney, which is any attorney who supervises the work of others or provides training or mentoring, or 3, a non-supervising attorney. Please note that anybody who is responsible for overseeing or managing the work of others should be counted as a supervisor. This includes managers, even if they do not handle cases or represent clients directly. The next column asks to report the full-time equivalent, or FTE, corresponding to the position. Counting staff in full-time equivalent terms is done as follows. One staff person who works full-time in your program is counted as 1, whereas a staff member who works less than full-time is counted according to the proportion of a full-time position that they work. For instance, a staff person working 50% of full-time is counted as 0.5. A program with 1 full-time and 1 50% part-time attorney, for example would therefore have a total of 1.5 full-time equivalent attorney staff. Then you are asked to please provide the date on which the attorney position was filled for the first time since it was created. For example, if an attorney position was created with statewide funding or any other type of funding on January 1st, 2020, and someone was hired for the position as of March 1st, 2020, please report March 1st, 2020. If, for example, that position was filled by an individual, the individual left, and another individual was hired, which is a rehire within the same position, please count this as one position and report the starting date for the first individual as March 1st, 2020 in this example. The next column contains information about the hire type. The drop-down list allows you to indicate if this position is an employee or a contractor. Next to that, please report the position's annual salary or contract amount in US dollars. Lastly, and very importantly, please indicate if the position was filled on the last day of the calendar year. In this example, December 31st, 2025, by selecting either yes or no in the drop-down list. This way, we know if the position was filled on the last day of the reporting period or if the position was vacant at that time. Now let's move on to the orange section, which includes information about funding streams that support these positions. This section of the staffing chart includes 5 columns referring to different public defense funding streams, which are the Hurl, Herring, or statewide contract funding, county funding, family defense and remodel office grant funding, other ILS funding, and other funding. For each of these 5 funding streams, indicate if the attorney position is funded by it either in full or in part by selecting yes or no. So if a position is funded by it in full, you select yes. If a position is funded by it in part, you also select yes. If, for instance, an attorney position is funded by both county funding and statewide contract funding, please enter yes in each of these 2 columns and no in the remaining ones. If a position is partly or entirely funded by other ILS funding or other funding, please describe the funding source briefly in the next column. Then let's move to the green section. The green section of the chart asks for information about the cases the attorney handles. For each attorney position, please indicate the average percentage of their time dedicated to representation in criminal court cases, as defined under County Law Article 18b at the trial, appellate, or post-conviction level, to representation in family court cases, as defined under County Law Article 18b at the trial or appellate level, and to supervisory tasks. The percentages reported in these 3 columns should add up to a total of 100%. Then indicate if the attorney in the position provides representation at arraignment by selecting yes or no. And report the total number of cases assigned to the attorney from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025. Please include all cases assigned, including cases at which representation was provided just for arraignment. Then let's move on to the yellow section. The yellow section of the staffing chart includes information about training attended by the attorney in the prior calendar year. For each attorney position, please indicate whether the attorney attended training with 1. Statewide contract funds, and 2. Family defense and/or model office grant funds between January 1st of 2025 and December 31st of 2025 by selecting yes or no in the drop-down list. Training events include, but are not limited to, professional conferences and continuing legal education, or CLE, and non-CLE programs. Lastly, the gray section is to add notes specific to each position, which is optional. Let's now take a look at the chart for the specialized professional positions. As you can see, this chart is very similar to the attorney positions charts we just discussed. In this chart, please list all specialized professional positions at this provider. This includes specialized professionals on staff who are employed by the office in a full or part-time capacity, as well as positions that are funded by ILS contracts but not yet filled. Specialized professionals include investigators, social workers, and others such as experts, stenographers, interpreters. They also include administrative support staff, for instance, secretaries, paralegals, case managers, grant managers, data officers, etc. As the columns in the specialized professional positions tab are mostly the same as on the attorney position tabs, you can refer to the instructions for the attorney position chart we just discussed for most of this chart. However, there's one column that is different from the attorney positions chart, titled Type of Position. For the specialized professional positions, we distinguish 4 different position types, as you can see in the drop-down list. Please indicate if the specialized professional positions is 1. Administrative support staff, 2. Investigator, 3. Social worker, or 4. Another specialized professional position. The last tab in the ILS provider staffing chart is labeled ACP panel attorneys. This tab and the questions on this sheet are for assigned counsel programs, or ACPs, only. First, it asks ACPs to report how many attorneys were paid pursuant to County Law Article 18B over the past year for work in criminal court and family court cases, distinguishing between those assigned criminal court cases only, family court cases only, and both criminal and family court cases. Please note that these categories are mutually exclusive. Second, ACPs are required to provide a list including the panel attorney names and the type of cases they were assigned. Okay, at this time, I will stop sharing the staffing chart and go back to sharing the PowerPoint that we left. So this slide summarizes some important dates in 2026. So we would like to conclude this video with an overview of important dates coming up in 2026. First, on January 7, chiefs and administrators will receive an email from ILS Director Patricia Worth announcing the upcoming distribution of the unique provider links to the ILS 195, PRR 185, and PMF. On January 15, an email with the unique links to the ILS 195, PRR 195, and PMF, plus the ILS provider staffing chart, will be sent to providers and data officers. Then, on January 22, ILS will hold a virtual Q&A session about the ILS provider staffing charts, ILS 195, PRR 195, and PMF. Any questions providers have can be asked and will be answered by the ILS research team and some CDR regional attorneys. February 13 is the deadline of Push the Button campaign, which encourages providers to submit their ILS 195 report early. Some of you might remember this from last year. Bethany Simpson, ILS Data Outreach Officer, will be sending out frequent emails leading up to that date to inform and update you about the Push the Button campaign. On March 2nd, the PRR 195 is due for recipients of ILS parent representation grants. The 2026 annual financial report is also due on March 2nd. Please note that, as indicated at the start of this video, the latter is a report that is completed at the county level. And lastly, on April 1st, the April 2026 PMF and the 2026 ILS 195 are due, which include the review and completion of the ILS provider staffing charts. Thank you for your attention, and please feel free to reach out to the ILS research team at data@ils.ny.gov if you have any questions or concerns.